Good afternoon. Welcome to our session on kickstarting your NIS2 journey. I hope you all can hear me. I cannot hear you, so if you have questions, please do, but raise your hand so I can come a little bit closer and understand what you're saying. What we'll do today is take you through a few market data, then give you an update on where we are with NIS2, specifically in Belgium, right here, right now, what's the state of play at this current moment, and then we'll try to explain to you how we approach the NIS2 compliancy trajectory and how we think you can kickstart it and get some speed into this sometimes or potential lengthy process. So first and foremost, if this thing works, yeah, it should work. Yeah, now it does. What do? We are Uptime Security. Uptime Security is a part of the bigger Kronos group, so it's a large integrator outfit in Belgium, and we focus on a few things. One of the things that we focus on is strategic advisory and cybersecurity. What we want to do with our customers is help them, guide them through processes. In this case, it is NIS2, but it can be any desired trajectory in cybersecurity. The end goal should be that you are better off, your posture is better, that you are better equipped against cyber attacks. What we use to do that is end-to-end cybersecurity services. That means that we want to help you out with as agnostic as possible processes, services, so that you don't have to rip out everything before you bring anything else in. The technology agnosticness is bound to this advisory, where we don't want to come in with you and say, oh, we want you to buy vendor X, Y, or Z. What we want you to do is find the correct solution, and you do not always need the Rolls Royce of solutions. Sometimes it's okay to buy a smaller car and have something that fit for purpose. Also good for your speed and also good for your budget. So what do we see? These are all Belgian examples. I don't have to tell you about this, right? Everybody's in the news. I think the audience here today is already well aware that we are getting an ever-increasing amount of cyber attacks every day, and that we see that they are there to get you out of business. It used to be, I can steal your data, but it's not that kind of attack anymore. They want to bring your business down, so they can get ransom out of you. On top of the ransom, they'll also steal your data and then try to monetize the data for that. One of our partners, Arctic Wolf, has done a study, and we see here that for all industries, the median of the ransomware worldwide is $600,000. So each and every time the breach on ransomware happens, the median is $600,000. There's a little schema here on which vertical market gets attacked the most and which vertical market here gets the biggest ransomwares. If you see energy and natural resources, 2 million, easy. So nobody pays, but how do we get to these numbers, right? Everybody tells you don't pay, but still we pay a lot of cash and a lot of dough if it's up to our business. So that's just an idea on how that ransomware is set up. What's causing all of this? Well, first and foremost, one of the things is geopolitics. If you see what's going on in the world, you see the Israeli war, you see the Ukrainian war, you see uproar, you see a lot of things, then geopolitics is definitely something that sparks the use of ransomware, sparks the use of cyber attacks. And everybody's aware of that. Usually a physical attack is preluded by a cyber attack, just to get you confused. The other thing which is becoming very important is you might be very hygienical on yourself. You might have a good, proper posture. You might have good controls in place. You might have good procedures in place, but you never know who you're dealing with. Because the other side while we're sitting here, we all see each other and we can physically see who we're dealing with and we can have a conversation. But in the digital world, there's no way of knowing who you're dealing with. This is where you can get scammed. You don't know what your counterparty or the partner you are dealing with is security-wise. How are they equipped? Are they getting in via there? And very often the back door is in one of your suppliers, in one of your logistical partners, somebody that says, yeah, well, it's not an issue. What, I don't have anything in data, so what are they going to attack me? There's nothing here to get ransomed for, but they do attack your customers. So that's a big new thing in the market. The other thing is emerging tech. Everybody has a mouthful of artificial intelligence. Everybody has a mouthful of machine learning. We all work from home. IoT, OT, wonderful stuff. But look at the first sentence. Innovation stands or falls with the fact that we can secure the lot. If we cannot secure it, then it might be very functional, it might be very handy, it might be something we all want, but if we cannot secure it, it's kind of dangerous to use it. Suppose you're thinking that you're talking to a real agent, and in the back there's a bot in AI answering you, telling you you need to do X, Y, or Z. You might want to understand who is in the back of that equation. And then there's another thing, and it's often underestimated. The war on talent. Everybody is screaming for IT security talent. The fact of life is there is none. Or at least there is a shortage of over 2 million people at this moment as we speak to form real IT security teams within enterprises to make sure that whatever it is that we need to guard is guarded, that people can actually depend on a team that deals specifically with security. That's not infrastructure, that's not business, that's not HR, it's about security, it's about cybersecurity, guarding your business online. So that's a big thing. If you ask 10 people, entrepreneurs, this is what they're not finding. Which is good for the people in the audience that are IT security people, of course. And then, of course, if nothing works, then the government hits you with what? Regulation. It usually starts with the banks. Usually starts with there where the money is. But we can no longer look away. It's impossible to look away from the fact that why would it happen to me? I have an antivirus. I have a firewall. Why would it happen to me? Why would they come here and steal my data? What are they going to do with it? But the fact of the matter is, they do. So then regulation hits you. You can pick and choose any. Huh? It's not how would I say, derogatory. You can pick or choose any. Every country, every state, every nation has some of that regulation. And specifically, the NIS2 directive. Now, the NIS2 directive is something that my colleague will explain in just a second on where we are and what where we should be and how we kickstart it. But the NIS2 directive is there to help us all out. Some people see it as a burden. I need to do this. Why? Why are people imposing on me that I need to do something to get my security guards up? The fact of the matter is, if there is no regulation and there's no obligation to get compliant, then you simply won't do it. Because security is considered to be a cost. It's not considered to be something that brings you money in the business. Which is, if I put 10 e-commerce servers down in a room, my business starts flourishing. If I put 10 servers down or some equipment on IT security, nothing changes. My revenue does not go up. It just costs the boxes and the people that I need to take care of. The problem is that it's a false sense of reasoning, because if you have security, your business will go up because you're not brought down and you won't need to pay ransomware, or you won't get in trouble restoring backups and spending nights and millions of dollars on extra personnel to get you back up. But I'll hand it over to my colleague right now.
Good afternoon. So let's take a look at the Belgian timing of NIS2. We made some progress over the last months where we know that it's translated into a Belgian law. That means that the regulation will go into effect on October 18th this year. Important on this is that as a company, if you're in scope of NIS2, it doesn't mean that you need to be compliant on that date. I see a lot of communication on that, but that's not possible, of course, that every company in scope of NIS2 is compliant on that date. There is a transition period defined currently in the Royal Decree that is not published officially yet. It states that within 18 months after October 18th, that as a company you get verified by by a conformity assessment body to check if you have done a first assessment on one option, the Cyber Fundamentals framework, or if you want to comply based on ISO, that you have a statement of applicability and the scope defined. Secondly, if you're an essential company, then you have 30 months to get certified also or against the Cyber Fundamentals framework or based on ISO. So these are more important dates to keep in mind. Short on the criteria to define if your company is in scope or not. First of all, the focus is mainly on large and medium enterprises. So let's say if you have more than 50 employees or 10 million revenue, then your company might be in scope. Small companies are out of scope, except if the local regulation says that you have to also comply with NIS2. Then based on the sectors, I earlier mentioned already important and essential. On the left-hand side, we have the list with the essential companies. So think about, energy sector, healthcare sector. They will be in the essential part. And on the other side, we have the important, like, for example, waste management, production, that kind of industries. An important one on this too is Article 21 about 10 specific controls that it's all about. I'm gonna not read them all, but mainly it's about, it's based on risk. Where are, as a company, your biggest risk? What are your critical assets? How do you secure your most critical components, your most critical data? Also, incident handling is an important one, because if an incident happens, you need to work on that. Also, everything related to governance is very well defined. They also mention cyber hygiene, but also vulnerabilities. What are your vulnerabilities in your environment? As well, external, internal vulnerabilities. Everything related to incident response also. So if something happens, how long does it take before you can detect it, and how will you respond as a company to that? So very challenging topics that are in this article. A little more detail on our approach. We decided with Uptime Security, when we saw the launch of the Cyber Fundamentals framework, something that is built by the Center for Cybersecurity, that it was a very pragmatic approach on the steps to take. The base of this framework is the NIST CSF framework, an American framework that starts with 5 categories. Identify, so know what you have. Protect, if you know what you have, how do you protect it? Then everything related to detect, if something malicious happens, how do you detect it? Respond to it, and then if it goes wrong, recover, of course. We also see ISO 20007-1, that is within the framework, and we also have the EAC 62443 related to OT security, that is in the framework. You also see CERT mentioned. If you look at the framework, you will see that there are 3 flavors. You have the basic flavor, nothing to do with NIS2. Then you have an important flavor and an essential flavor. So that is focused on the companies within that area of NIS2. All flavors have some key measures defined. Those key measures is something that comes out of CERT. They looked into cyber incidents over the last years and the impacts with the biggest, the incidents with the biggest impact to companies. And then they translated that into the controls that could, make the risk of happening that kind of incidents a lot lower. And that's defined as the key measures. The framework does not only focus on the technology, and that's where we see that a lot of companies already have taken the necessary steps, but it also looks at the processes, the governance part, and of course the people part. I think people is very important because that's the highest risk in every company. Steps we take into our approach is first we're going to see where are you now? So what is your as-is situation? We go to the Cyber Fundamentals framework and we will do some scoring to determine your current maturity. Then in the second phase is our plan phase, where we will take a first roadmap. Where are the priorities? What are the biggest risks? And here it's very important, this is always together with the customer. It's not if we see identity is important, but you as a customer says, no, I think my network security is more important, then we will discuss on it. So it's not a standard approach, it's really custom made. And then in the last phase, the build phase, is where if we have a roadmap, then probably some tooling has to be selected. That's also something where we can help you and guide you to take the necessary step in the execution of that roadmap. Here you see an example of a dashboard that comes out of the assessment, and in the roadmap we will define some waves with first, of course, the low-hanging fruit. If you have some technology in place where you just have to add additional configuration, or wave 1, really the important things you have to do, but maybe you need additional technology or stuff to do it. And then we have the should do, and of course, as last, the could do initiatives. This is an example of some assessments we did the last year. If you look at it, you see that the color is mostly red. Main reason for that is that if you look at the Cyber Fundamentals framework, the scoring is in 2 dimensions. First of all, you have a documentation score. Do you have some governance? Do you have a process? Do you have policies defined? And then the second is the implementation score. Most of these cases, the red color, the reason is just the lack of the governance. So they don't have documentation, don't have procedures defined. So where to start? Of course, first step is the assessment. Where is your company today? To know that, it's very important to define the gaps and to define steps to take in the future. Then governance. Governance is overall, if you talk about identity, if you talk about cloud or infrastructure or network, you need governance. So you need policies, you need procedures. The first important step in the framework is identify. Know what you have. What assets do you have? Not only talking about endpoints or servers, but also applications, data. What are the most critical assets you have? If you have the inventory in place, then you can take a look at the risks and the vulnerabilities you have on those assets. And here it's very important, of course, to look at your most critical assets with the highest risk, because that are the ones that you need to take action on. Then in detect and respond, we think that a security operations center as a service or a managed detection and response service is a very important step. We often see that this comes as one of the last steps in a roadmap, because a company first wants to protect everything, and then they want to use a SOC to define if something goes wrong. Depending on the SOC service you choose, there are options that you can start with SOC, even though you don't have all protection in place yet. But it gives some peace of mind that if something goes wrong, it will be detected and the impact will be limited. That's a very important one. And then, of course, the third-party risk, suppliers, is also very important in the NIS2. A high-level basic roadmap based on the Cyber Fundamentals framework we recommend is, as mentioned earlier, you have basic, important, and essential. You have the key measures. First start with the key measures of the basic, then work towards the other controls in the basic, and do the same steps for important, and if your company is in scope of essential, also towards essential. The assurance level, this one is important for the essential companies that need a certification and that want to use the Cyber Fundamentals framework. You also here see the basic, important, and essential, but you see a big difference in the scoring. If you look at the basic level, for example, you see there are 13 key measures, and you need to have a score of minimum 2.5 on 5. And your total maturity also on that same range. Here, if a company not in scope of NIS2, you have the option to get a bronze label towards that framework. So that means that an accredited company comes to verify your self-assessment. Then you have important. Here you can see the key measures are 21, and you also need a minimum score of 3. And then your total maturity also has to be 3. So that means that on the list of all controls in the Cyber Fundamentals framework, if you decide to have a lower scoring on some of them or even skip some of them, that's perfect possible. But for essential companies, we can see that we already have 29 key measures. But here you also need, in every category, your minimum need a score of 3 to 5. So that's a big difference with the important one. And also your total maturity level needs to be 3.5 at minimum. So that's really a big challenge to get there as a company. This is, if you're a company that is in Flanders, you can make use of the VLAIO improvement trajectories. So that means that you will get some funding on that, depending on if you're an SME or if you're a big or large enterprise in scope of NIS2, you can have 50% or 35% reduction on these trajectories. My colleague will make a short conclusion on this.
Thank you, Bart. Can you hear me? Yeah. So this gives you an idea of where we are today, what we've been through, where we are today. It's needless to say that we're on the verge of getting the regulation done in October. That's about, what, 4 months out? So it's not that long anymore. If you are, well, I wouldn't say lucky or unlucky. At the most, you'll get 30 months after that if you are an essential company. So I think it's time to get started. So as a conclusion, I would say, please do start, and please take already the necessary steps. My colleague explained, where do you start? What are the big things that you can tackle? Tackle them. Make sure that you start working on them, because by the time you start working on them, you'll figure out that it's more work than you thought it was going to be. That's one. The second thing is, if you look at what the war on talent is about, and there's little people around that can help you, and your teams are already virtually at the edge of what they can do, get some help. Get people out there that help you with the framework. Make it pragmatical. Don't bring in the books on, I need to read 25,000 pages on what you need to do, but take a pragmatical approach on what steps do we need to take. Let's assess this, let's plan this thing, and let's start working on it. Take it into your hands, because nobody else is going to do it. If you do so, and you do get help, or you don't, regardless of what you do, but please do base yourself off of a good plan. Make sure that you talk to the business. Make sure that you talk to the people, because this is not an IT issue. This is a company issue. A company issue means that if you're not doing it, your business will get affected. So please base yourself off of a solid plan. Take the time to build the plan, assess, build the plan, and then build off of the plan, just like you would build your own house. I think that's a key thing to ground yourself and to say, okay, from here we'll start building, and we'll see what happens. Think about it as not just technology. I already mentioned that. It's more than just technology, and it goes way beyond the technology. If Bart showed you all the red you saw was not the technology, because everybody has quite a bit of technology in place that helps with that in that perspective. But it's about two IT guys saying to each other, well, the password policy is going to be 12 digits. And it's not written down anywhere, and nobody can find it, and there's, oh, should we use a capital, or should we? That's the way and it scores you in documentation and in implementation. So if you need to go to 3, you already flunked on that one. Then if you really want to kickstart it, and you want to get some speed into the process, and that's what Bart said as well, if you bring the detection capabilities at the end, then you will start detecting at the end. Maybe you should start detecting in the beginning, which gives you a lot of information on what's wrong right now, and take those big gaps and fill them before you start detecting afterward and say, well, I've done all of that work and I'm still confronted with a lot of red in my framework. So MDR, SOC as a service, vulnerability management, a generic approach into zero trust network architecture is something that will give you peace of mind early in the stages, not at the end. If you get it early in the stages, you can, inform your management. You can inform your people that we're on our way. You can detect, okay, this is what we've done. This is where we are. This is what the delta is that we still need to do, and we'll get there. So it's very important to get yourself some peace of mind, not running around in every directions. And of course, if you do that, it will differentiate you from your competitors, right? You're secure. You have it done. You have it covered. And it also gives you, if you have those certification, how would you call it, certification labels, it also gives you a real sense of, this is what I've done. I can go to my customers and say, hey, I'm bronze, silver, or gold, and it will set you apart, and it will make sure that it gives you a head start in your business. I still have 1 minute, but I'm finished. But if you have any questions, we'll be happy to try and answer them. Any questions? We must have been so clear. Well, if not, then thank you so very much. Have a wonderful day at the Cybersec 2024. We're over at the booth near the big presentation hall. Want to have a chat, a drink, come over, and we'll talk a little bit further into detail. Thank you.